Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. Could it really be the underwater hiding place for a mythological beast? There have been suspected sightings and speculation about something lurking in these waters for decades. But are we any clearer on what the supposed creature could be?
Oh, very like a swan, long neck, small head, and one big hump about 30 feet long.
Modern legend of Nessie happened back in April 1933, 90 years ago, when the manageress of the Drumna Drochad Hotel, Aldi Mackay, was driving along the banks of the Loch with her husband.
The Loch was very flat, calm, as if you'd gone over it with an iron. And every cloud and every leaf and every tree was reflected in the water. And I can see it still. It just rose out of the water, black, wet, with the water rolling off it. And I yelled at my husband, "Stop the beast!" And then it suddenly shot off to the far side of the loch in a circle and round and down.
While some critics say the hotel manageress's story could have been a publicity stunt engineered to boost waning tourist numbers, Mrs. Mackay was adamant.
Well, I quite agree. It is very suspicious, but it really did.
The Nessie myth first entered the Scots' consciousness in an account from the 7th century AD of the life of Saint Columba. The story goes that 100 years earlier, the Irish saint fought off a monster attack on the shores of the River Ness. So, while Nessie endured as a Sunday school tale, it was throughout the 20th century that the fabled beast became headline-grabbing news. A newsreel from 1936 claimed to have caught the Loch Ness Monster on film.
Here is the most unusual film of recent years, for it proves the existence of a monster in Loch Ness. We were soon to know, for through our telescopic lenses we saw the grey waters suddenly heave as the monster cut through them with lightning speed.
Well, Mr. Smitherland, I wonder if you'd mind telling us exactly what you saw.
The first thing I seen was the head and the neck sticking into the water, roughly about 3 feet.
Although even back in the 1930s, experts asked to give an appraisal of eyewitness accounts erred on the side of cautious scepticism.
Speaking as a zoologist, I have one or two ideas as to what the solution to this problem may ultimately be.
Can you get it? No?
Yes, it is. Suddenly we noticed a tremendous commotion in the water somewhere near the shore, but nothing visible for the time being. We could see there's something extraordinary there. And of course, first of all, I should mention there were no boats at all visible in the Loch. Then suddenly, it started to this huge black neck coming right out. I would estimate about 7 or 8 feet out of the water, moving slowly along. No humps visible, though, at all. Just further on from this commotion. Well, we moved along towards us diagonally for about 15 seconds and then went down in a kind of sideways motion. And that was the end of it.
What was your reaction to what you saw?
Well, we were almost overawed. In fact, my friend said if I hadn't been with him, he'd have ran. It was an extraordinary feeling of seeing this tremendous, like an apparition from another world. But it had only happened in a very short time, but we had no doubt at all that it was Nessie.
Nessie accounts can be met with scepticism. This picture was one of the earliest claims to have caught Nessie on camera. Taken by Hugh Gray in 1933, it allegedly shows Nessie's upturned flipper. Others say it's a picture of a dog with a stick in its mouth. However, there are sightings of the Loch Ness Monster that are proven hoaxes. One of the most famous Nessie snaps was taken in 1934, and it had people persuaded for years. It's known as the surgeon's photograph, after the British surgeon Colonel Robert Wilson, who took the picture. Many believed this was evidence the monster existed, but skeptics said it could have been driftwood, an otter, or even an elephant, rather than Nessie. But 60 years later, in 1994, the story unravelled.
One of the most famous pictures of the Loch Ness Monster is a fake.
It turns out Colonel Wilson and a few others had set up the ploy.
But now it seems that this monster is no more than a toy submarine with a long neck and a head built onto it. The trick was first revealed last year by 90-year-old Christian Sperling, who took part in the hoax. But it's taken until now to check the
sci-fi series Doctor Who.
Look, let's get this straight. Are you trying to tell me those rigs were chewed up by a set of giant molars?
Yes. A set of giant molars that can chew through solid steel as easily as paper.
In the 1970s, the Doctor was investigating what had destroyed oil rigs off the northeast coast of Scotland. Guess who? Nessie was the fearsome weapon of the Zygon, who controlled the monster, using it to wreak havoc on the world above.
The signals seem to be coming from Loch Ness, Doctor, if that's possible.
Yes, it is possible.
The aliens live below the surface of the Loch. Where else?